I'm sure this video will ruffle some feathers. Yeah, well, but I think it's kind of funny. And before I begin, I have to give a little disclaimer. I am not a Star Wars prequel hater. I love the Star Wars prequel films. I just get a little confused as to some of the decisions George Lucas made, like why was Boba Fett a clone? I mean, now it makes sense to a degree, but wouldn't it have kept him less ambiguous if he were the actual son of Jango Fett, possibly losing his mother during the Mandalorian Civil War? It's just a thought. But there's one decision that I've questioned. Sometimes I still do, some 21 years later, and that is, how could Darth Maul be replaced by Count Dooku, or Darth Tyrannus if you prefer, although no one really calls him Darth Tyrannus for some reason. Before you destroy my comment section with reasons, let me explain what I mean. Let me go back in time to about 40 seconds ago. You know, when I said I'm not a Star Wars prequel hater, I've seen a lot of posts and videos where Star Wars fans rank the movies. I commented on a video my dude Brody1 Kenobi made about AI ranking the Star Wars films. I'll link that video in the description. Go check it out. After you finish this one, of course. Some interesting stuff there. But my comment on the video basically said I have a hard time ranking all the films. Trust me, a lot of people have asked me to do it, and I just can't. But I went on to say that my ranking is as follows. At number 1, I have The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, who doesn't? At number 2, well, every other Star Wars movie. And it isn't because I think they're all equal, it's because it really depends on my mood at the time. Sometimes I prefer to watch Revenge of the Sith, other times I may be inclined to watch A New Hope, and other times it's Rogue One. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Good, because I'm getting way off track. I enjoy Star Wars for what it is, a fun fantasy that takes me away from reality for a couple hours. But that doesn't mean I don't question things. And the biggest question I have is how Darth Maul was replaced by Count Dooku. Okay, maybe it isn't my biggest question in all of Star Wars, but it's up there. But before I dig deeper into it and give some answers to that question, a quick word from our sponsor. Okay, yeah, it's me. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give the video a big stupid thumbs up. It really does help get my message across the Star Wars fandom. If you subscribe and like the video, it will give you a sense of happiness and euphoria, unlike anything you've experienced. It'll make your family love you more, and your water will turn to beer. Yeah, beer. And the type of beer you get is up to the will of the Force. If you get O'Doul suddenly shooting out of your shower, not my fault. If you don't subscribe and like, I'm sure your family will still like you just fine, and water will be good enough. But it's better to be safe and subscribe anyway. Alrighty then, let's get back to the Star Wars prequels, shall we? Back when The Phantom Menace was released in 1999, there was a lot of hate for it. But not with me. Nope, I saw it no fewer than 10 times in the theater. Remember, this was back before streaming services, and we had to wait like a year before these films went to VHS. Yeah, VHS. But the reason I saw it so many times is because it was so different than the original trilogy had been in the 1970s and 1980s. Every time Obi-Wan Kenobi or Qui-Gon Jinn would use the Force in a new way, I was like, wow, I didn't know they could do that. And let's face it, the lightsaber duels were a huge step up from the two old farts on the Death Star. Yeah, Luke and Vader's duels were pretty great, but somehow the Phantom Menace just showed the Jedi in a way we had not seen. Jedi who had been trained for decades, with the best duel being the Duel of the Fates. That's the Darth Maul, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Qui-Gon Jinn duel on Naboo, as if you didn't know. The Duel of the Fate of Anakin Skywalker. Another big reason I liked The Phantom Menace so much was because of Darth Maul. There is no denying that Star Wars has had some of the best villains in all of cinema, and at this point Darth Maul was pretty freaking scary. So scary that in my oldest son's first viewing, we had to leave the movie because he was so scared. Funny story, he had been bugging me to see it because of Darth Maul. So yeah, we left because Darth Maul scared the crap out of him. Darth Sidious would call that ironic. But he was only 16 years old at the time, so I forgive him. Just kidding, he was only 4. Poor little guy. Anyways, Darth Maul was the best thing to come from The Phantom Menace. A close second was Obi-Wan Kenobi as a youth and Qui-Gon Jinn as kind of a renegade Jedi. But then it happened. Darth Maul was cut in half, and he even bumped his head on the way down the shaft. What the heck? Why kill off such a cool character? Yes, I know he ultimately survived, but this was before the Clone Wars showed that. But this was a Sith Lord unlike anything we had seen in Star Wars. A true Sith that wasn't wrinkled like a scrotum, and not a fallen Jedi. This guy was raised to create havoc. True evil. He let his actions speak for him, and the few words he did speak were just menacing, even though he wasn't the actual Phantom Menace. Okay, well, let's wait 3 years for the next movie and see how George Lucas tries to top Darth Maul. Then Attack of the Clones comes out, and what's this? Another shriveled old prune as the new apprentice to Darth Sidious? He looks like a friendly grandpa, a well-dressed, thinner Santa Claus, and he isn't scary in the least. Darth Vader's rolling over in his grave. This is George Lucas' best he can do? The Dracula to Peter Cushing's Van Helsing? What was that, like 50 years prior? As soon as Obi-Wan Kenobi saw him, he should have just started telling Dooku what he wanted for Christmas. And now that we have even more perspective of Sith Lords from the movies and the expanded universe, let's take a look at how they compare. And don't worry, I will get to some positive stuff about Dooku in a bit, but let's look at it. Darth Sidious, aka Emperor Palpatine, looks like a crumpled paper bag, but those eyes and that laugh make him just creepy. Darth Vader, don't even think about crossing his path. Scary and powerful. Darth Maul, just avoid him and hope he didn't see you. Darth Nihilus, yeah, you're better off leaving the universe. Count Dooku, ask him about the good old days. Yep. So, to say I was confused is putting it mildly. Dooku was nothing like we had seen. Really, he still isn't. I'd be more afraid of Kylo Ren's emo temper tantrums than Dooku. The most I could say is that I'd be afraid I broke his hip or something. Okay, let me calm down. Dooku doesn't deserve the hate. Well, not entirely. The casting for this character just seemed out of place. I mean, we went from Darth Maul to Dooku. And remember, I'm just talking about Attack of the Clones. Then Revenge of the Sith came out and Count Dooku lost his head pretty early on. By the way, in that fight scene, did anyone else find it ironic that it looked like he broke Obi-Wan Kenobi's hip with the falling platform? Anyways, there wasn't much to Count Dooku in Revenge of the Sith, other than that fear he had when he realized he's being betrayed by his master. Great scene. Sorry, Dooku, you're old as hell and probably won't live long anyway. Papa Palpatine needs an apprentice younger than him and not older, like you. Mad respect for Christopher Lee, though. He did an amazing job. But then the Clone Wars animated series came out and we saw a whole other side to Count Dooku. They really fleshed him out and it started making sense. I still think the casting was a bit weird, but now it's becoming tolerable. And oh yeah, Darth Maul returns. Yay! The character of Count Dooku made sense, but the design choice is something I struggled with. I accept it and generally just take it for what it is, but Dooku was there to add the political side of the Sith uprising. Use him up until Palpatine's power grab was complete, then replace him with an enforcer who would keep his empire in line. But now, I couldn't really see Count Dooku portrayed any other way, especially with the Clone Wars and the Tales of the Jedi animated stuff. If we would have had someone scary playing the character, it would have taken away from how other characters perceived him. He was a politician, and he resembled politicians of our own world. Old men who look trustworthy, but are dangerous and manipulative. Sorry, politicians. That's how I feel. At the time of Attack of the Clones, and even years later, I questioned why George Lucas made this Sith Lord look the way he did, but it makes a bit of sense now for George Lucas's story. And I try to envision what the story would have been like if George Lucas had left politics out of it, the way a lot of Star Wars fans would have liked. And I can't think of a scenario that would make sense. Maybe if Sidious had just outright attacked the Jedi and the Republic, but it was just him and Darth Maul. They would have lost quickly. So there had to be a political manipulation that showed how Palps rose from within, then destroyed from within. And Count Dooku makes sense. A trusting old-timer in appearance, but dangerous behind the scenes. Taking Darth Maul out of the equation was necessary for showing the fate of Anakin Skywalker, but maybe it could have been done at a later time or something. But then again, too much of a good thing can be bad. But let's face it, with Maul becoming a fleshed out character in the Clone Wars and beyond, it made him even more enjoyable. But what do you think? Was replacing Darth Maul with Count Dooku a good design choice? Or is it something all in my head? Should I have just accepted it because it's what the creator wanted? I don't know. We all have our preferences and likes and dislikes in the Star Wars universe. It doesn't mean it was a bad idea, just questionable at best. That's all I have for today. But before I go, another quick word from our sponsor, me. If you're new here or just haven't committed yet, hit that subscribe button and give the video a big-ass thumbs up. Doing so helps my channel more than you know, and it'll give you a sense of calm and happiness unlike anything you've experienced in the Star Wars fandom. Warning, subscribing to this channel will not make your family love you more. Unless you experience that happiness mentioned, then your family will see a change in you and be more willing to let you collect Star Wars stuff. Subscribing will also not turn your water to beer, unless somehow this channel is the key ingredient to making your personal beer in your personal microbrewery. But maybe it will help due to the happiness factor. But just in case, subscribe anyway. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. Until the next video, this is Gerald, a Star Wars fanatic, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you all for watching, and remember, this is the way, and positivity in the Star Wars community should be the only way.